What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, this is where we talk about the news topics that happened in the scale world of RC over the past week. If you enjoy the Scale News Update regularly, hit the like button now. Let's jump into all of this week's topics. First for this week, MyTrickRC is finally releasing their H10 Optic light kit. Now, they had shown this at Axial Fest in July of this year, or last year. So like 6+ months ago, and they had a really nice looking, well-fitting system, but at the time it was 3D printed, and I think that is what their initial plan was as far as the release. However, they changed that and went to something that was a little bit more fully tooled up with molded parts and the whole deal. Now they've got this new kit available now. There's a light whip that you can add with it. There's rock lights. They've also updated their light controller, so it's got a little bit more features. It's a great looking little kit. MyTrickRC actually develops these parts themselves, not just using off the shelf or regular available components to get this done. They do a ton of engineering and work to get you this. Now, their website doesn't have the best product photos for this. You can't really see all of what is really in there easily. If you go through all of the photos though, you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, you can see that the front light buckets and how those LEDs are retained to this nice molded piece that goes onto the back side of the grill and holds everything real nice, slim up into place for the best possible outcome on that. If you're an H10 Optic owner and you're interested in this, I'll put a link to them in the description below where you can go check that out, pick that up. I believe it's available for pre-order currently. For those of you that have VS410s and love mud, I've got a new mud truck conversion kit for your VS410. Last week, I released a video on my VS410 Fordyce mud truck conversion. It's actually sitting right over there currently, but with that, it drops the lower transmission cradle down like about 30 millimeters to give you a nice big drop. Allows you to fit some, I used the JConcepts Fling King tires on their 2.6 Dragon wheels using the stock shocks and all just relocated from the shock towers down onto the chassis rails. The actual dimension of the amount of drop that was created was because of the height of the actual shock towers, allowing you to just use those stock shocks if you like. Or you can go with a 110, 120 millimeter shock to get that all accomplished. Also, it is best if used with a servo-on axle or BTA. I decided to go with an H10 axle swap at the same time. So I used the H10 axles and H10 link set to just throw it all in there, get it done at the same time. It was a pretty easy swap. If you're looking for more details on that, like I said, did a whole video. You can find all of the information on there and links to where you can purchase the laser cut parts from Send Cut Send. But again, if you're looking for that, you like the mud, check out that video, check out those parts. Speaking of checking things out, it's a pretty weak segue, but channel membership is available. You get some extra videos, you help support the channel a little bit more, and you also get videos like After News Delight, which is an extension of the Scale News Update. This week, I'll have a guest on for After News Delight. Yeah.
Are you talking about me?
Matt will be joining me for After News Delight, where we'll go back through the news and discuss each of these objects a little bit further. Gran Turismo's taking precedence right now, though. So, but don't worry about Matt being here, because on Wednesday he'll be back home and we'll have Livestream Takeover, same time as always, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Come check that out. 250 plus weeks at this point. And if you work for an RC manufacturer and you've got a new product release that you'd like to see on the Scale News Update, you can email me at news@harleydesigns.com. Just include a photo, a description, and a link to your website where it can be found, and I'll try and get it here on the Scale News. For this week, we have a new release from FMS. Now, this is something that I feel like is a better discussion point than anything. This is the 124 scale FSC24 Chaser RTR, 124 scale short course truck. This is one of those things, like, I feel like 124th scale crawlers, they, everyone's got different feelings on 124 scale. I've come to like them in a lot of ways, but I don't think that everything scales down fantastic. And I feel like short course trucks can be a difficult one. I think that, FMS is showing this out in the dirt, doing its thing, where I feel like at that scale with these type of things, just the most minor of inconveniences off-road can stop something like this in its tracks. So it's almost like it needs to be an indoor thing, but be interested to hear what you guys think of the smaller scale other vehicles, not crawler, whether it's small scale, on-road, drift, short course trucks, whatever you want to call this, how you feel about these, assuming that you don't already really dislike 124 scale at its core. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Speaking of disliking at your core, JConcepts released a new body. This one is called the Anvil, cab only body. And it's not terrible. It is very compy, so it's not meant to be uber scale, but it cab only, very pinched, slammed roofline. It's got like a kind of a modern headlight decal applied to it. And it's just meant to be a new super performance oriented body. So it's going to serve that purpose exactly. Now it's shown in the photos on a VRD carbon. So obviously made to fit perfectly onto that type of rig with a, fairly high front bumper, sliders, narrow, everything that you would expect. They also show it with the 3D printable rear flatbed that I have on my website, which was kind of cool to see get posted up. But this isn't going to be a body for everybody. I think that it could be a little bit polarizing, but what JConcepts body hasn't been a little polarizing? I think there were some that we universally agreed on, but the rest seemed to split the crowd pretty decent. And Anvil, not a bad name. Not bad at all. Good work. JConcepts had a couple of other new releases. The tire area most specifically. The first new tire that they released is called the Bossman. Now, this tire on its own, it's not licensed, but it looks pretty decent. It's not overly unscale. And I bring that up specifically because within minutes or hours of its release, there was a post on the Sorka groups saying that they were banned, that these were a voided lug tire and just was not going to be legal for competition because of this insanely thin little detail line that they had around the outside of the lug. It felt like a stretch, at the very least, that they were going to call this a voided lug tire and that it was going to be illegal. And the comments reflected that it seemed ridiculous. So it seems that Sorka is going to do some extra work or extra investigation. They said, they have sets on the way. They've talked to them. Things. I feel like they jumped the gun. Sorka on its own has gone through. It's had a rough couple of years. Whether or not it will be able to recover its former, grasp on the competition market. I think it's going to be a hard hill to climb. Sorka was the standard, and while people complained, they didn't complain like they have for the last 2 years. So seeing that type of response and everyone's just pushback against it, it doesn't seem like a good sign. But maybe now that they're going to come back and say maybe they are allowable or they are legal, that would be great. Maybe most people won't care though. And then also JConcepts has these new rock block tires. They used all of their creativity up on the other names, and rock block is what won this one. Maybe it's got some sort of reference to something else. I can't be sure, but it looks okay. I don't know. I can't tell exactly what this one is scaled after the most, or most closely, but looks pretty reasonable. JConcepts tires compound is always fantastic. They've done really well. The carcass has held up really well also. I think that these will be a great tire in general, popular for the sizing. JConcepts has some tires current, like the Tusk, that have done really well. I think the biggest problem with the JConcepts stuff in general has been the supply. Just trying to get them has been pretty difficult. So we'll see if any of that changes for the upcoming year. Then I saw a new story from 110 Rod Shop. This is a new lowering kit for the CEN Sicario. We saw a lowering kit last week as well, but this one is different. I first saw this, I was like, okay, noted it for the scale news, was going back to save a photo or photos that were available for the product and started looking a little bit closer and saw that it had independent front suspension. I looked a little closer, saw the rear suspension was also different. It turns out that this kit is actually taking a Red Cat LRH 285 chassis. The lowrider chassis that you can get is just the actual roller portion, and then readapting it to fit in this platform. So you're replacing basically everything. Now the kit from 110 Rod Shop, not cheap, a little bit under 200 bucks, but you also need to supply a Red Cat chassis to get this thing all complete. The electronics as well. As that chassis, you're going to need 4 independent servos for the control of the suspension, also a steering servo. It's going to relocate that transmission to the back of the truck, basically, and it is incorporating also a gooseneck hitch attachment. So it does try and give you some of those things, since you're not going to be able to use the regular CEN aftermarket upgrade parts to accomplish that. But pretty cool. You're only going to use the body from your Sicario, it looks like. I believe that is all. And I guess the wheels and tires, although 110th Rod Shop is also using some like 3D printed wheels, but I think that the stock wheels will work. Not 100% sure all of the details just yet, but if you're looking for a active suspension type system for your CEN, or it's barely for your CEN. If you want to build a truck that uses the CEN body and has active suspension, this is going to be as good of a choice as any, as far as that I've seen available. But that does it for this week's news stories. News stories were pretty thin this week. Beginning of the year, kind of have a slow rollout on some things. Last week we were busy. This week, a little bit less so.
Dude, this car is wild. Ford GT40?
Oh, it's a great car.
So cool.
Yeah. I need a question to ask for this week.
Shit.
You're backwards.
I'm gonna be sick.
For this week's question, though, let me know, what's your favorite video game? PlayStation, cell phone, PC, whatever it is. Put it in the comments below. I'm going to film After News Delight and make Matt participate. So, with that, as always, thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not already. Comment, channel membership, all of that. Thanks again. See you on the next one.
Bye.